Hello, and welcome to another week of the Story Darks podcast. I am your co-host, Mike.
And I'm your co-host, Alex.
And today, we are discussing Apocalyptigirl by Andrew MacLean. It's Apocalyptigirl and Aria for the end times. And this is the end of our Lonely Sci-Fi Month. Now, this is, like, I was first reading it and thinking, like, what is this? Like, technically, dystopia, I would guess, is a subset of sci-fi, even if it's earthbound, which I thought is what I was reading. But then you learn, as the story continues, it's also space sci-fi.
Yes, yeah.
And I guess this one is
sci-fi. This one is slightly different in what we've been talking about, the Lonely Sci-Fi, in that this is not someone on a journey. Our other three have been people on journeys, leaving and or maybe not coming back, right? That's alone in space, traveling to a destination. Here we have someone, our character Aria, who is lonely, quote unquote, in a stationary place. You know, she is alone, effectively on a planet. Now, as we find out, this planet has inhabitants, but you know, you can't communicate with them, and there are larger forces at work here. But she is sent here alone. Right, she's sent here on a mission to do a thing, but she is by herself, at odds with whatever else is happening on this planet.
Yeah, well, I assumed this was like her native planet, and somehow she had survived. You know, that's kind of what you don't know the before stuff until afterward. But even then, when she decides to keep the planet or save the planet at the end because she calls it home, I was unclear if she was just saying, like, it's my adopted home. You know, I lived there for 6 years or whatever.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's all it was. It was not like they made it off of the planet, her family did, and then she went back for reconnaissance.
Yeah, no, I think it's what it is she was stationed there to do this thing, to find the great photon, this energy source, on behalf of whatever larger space force that she's a part of, because I think her home is that beachside bit, that whatever planet that is where she is from. So, but it's this idea that she chose this job, this profession, this life, to be sent out to seed these planets or whatnot. And she makes some comment in there about, like, it's supposed to be like 3 months or something like that, but for whatever reason, this job has taken her 6 years because she can't find the signal. She can't find this great photon. So she's been alone on this planet for 6 years. And I do like that initial bit of uncertainty when you start the book of, is this a lone survivor situation? Like you said, like, is she, are we following the quote unquote last person left in this city, this area on this planet or whatnot, just trying to survive? And then we get this larger story of, no, she was sent here. And as we see her interact with the blue stripes and the gray beards and things, and we see that there's some larger internal conflict. There are people already on this planet that she has been sent to from, I guess, some level of colonizers or whatnot. I don't know, or they're reclaiming the planet. It's a little unclear. Once again, the specifics of the world building.
But she doesn't have the, like, Star Trek prime objective or prime directive of not interfering with life on the planet. Because she's trying to rob them of. Now I assume that's the great photon. You know, I can't help but think that, you know, photos, light. There's just a great light within the planet that they're literally plundering.
And it's referred to as like the perfect energy source or something like that, you know? So once again, the specifics here, I think MacLean does a good job with the world building. It's interesting with this story here because everything is told through first person narration. Almost like and it's almost like diegetic, because she comments on the fact that she's talking to herself and that she's narrating her activities. So, like, he's created a character that's self-aware that she's alone, and maybe it's a little weird that she's talking to herself and or talking to her cat. But that I guess he just assumes that's what would happen if
Okay.
someone were left alone, you know?
Can we talk about what's next level about that trope in this book?
Sure.
The fact that you have the narration boxes and the word bubbles, and they're interacting.
And then I was going to say that I have that written
so
down
good.
here.
It's so good.
When it moves from the square narration to the round, like, you know, when the bubbles merge, your understanding is that goes from internal monologue to her vocalizing that. Yeah, which is fantastic. But I think what I was, from a narrative standpoint, what I think is interesting about that is any download of the world building or the world history we get is just what she knows. It's just what Aria knows. This isn't some third person omniscient explaining the world to us. This isn't someone else. This is, we're getting what her understanding of what this planet was like and what kind of what her objective is. Meaning that it's filtered through whatever's been passed down to her. So we're getting the world building from, we only see her viewpoint. We don't get like an outside objective view of what's happening on this planet and who these other tribes are and where they come from. All we're getting is just her, what she knows. So we know what she knows and that's it. But MacLean doesn't hide the fact that, not that we should question it or that we think that Aria is wrong, but he doesn't hide the fact that this is just her. This is all we're seeing is her view, you know?
Right.
He doesn't hide that it's a limited perspective, and that it may not be the quote unquote right one, or no, that's the wrong word.
Well, she's not an
yeah.
infallible narrator.
Yeah.
But it's not like the unreliable narrator thing where she's lying to you. Everything she's saying to you is her true thought.
Yes, great.
But it's limited to her perception.
Yeah. And so he doesn't stray from that. So everything that we see is through her perspective, everything we see. And I want to say, aside from just a handful of shots, almost everything we see is through her eyes and what she sees. There's a couple things like when the blue stripes are creeping down into the tunnels and things like that. You know, we get a little bit of sense of danger and what's around, but I would say 90% of the book is just what she sees. We never leave her perspective, either visually or in dialogue and in narration, because it's her thoughts.
Yeah. Like a pretty effective storytelling, especially the economy of this. Now, I noticed this is a question, I guess, based on which version you're reading. Mine is listed as the second edition,
which is the 2020 version, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But the fact that there is a second edition editor and a second edition assistant editor, I like, you know, when I saw second edition editor, I was like, oh, they must have picked a new cover for it or something like that. But the fact that there are multiple people working on the second edition made me wonder if like one of these codas at the end is new.
I believe both of those codas. So if you,
one of them you had to have.
Well, I am uncertain because the when this first came out in 2015, I don't know if the first one is after and the second one is before. Yeah. I believe those may not have been included with the original printing in 2015, but that may have been material that he had and maybe published elsewhere on his own. You know, I think that's what it is. Like, because they're not like full issues; they're like short stories here.
Exactly right. They can only be bound in a trade.
Yeah, they only give a little extra stuff there. But I think that's probably someone he had published. Maybe it was in like included in like a Dark Horse Presents anthology, or maybe he gave them out at shows or cons as like promo material or something like that. I don't know, but they are included in the 2020 reprint, which is the one that I have and one that you read, and it's the one I think that's mostly available now, which is why I think they put it out, because I don't know if that 2015 one is still in print, and if it's available, it's because you got lucky and you found it at a library or a used bookstore or something like that. So the version that I think is most readily available is that 2020 version that has those two codas there. But I don't know if that material was previously published like officially anywhere. It might have been. You know, this is not a book that I was aware of until relatively recently. So it was cool to jump into something new-ish. I think I mentioned this last week or in the Zero. this is the book that I found and recommended once we had our idea for Lonely Sci-Fi Month, but I hadn't read it
Very
at that
backwards
point.
for us.
Yeah. So we found this one. I read the synopsis. I remember flipping through it and be like, you know what, this seems like it might fit. And so we kind of went in blind. We said, yeah, let's do this one. And then I read it after knowing that we were going to talk about it specifically for this theme month, which was an interesting perspective to take this book in, because I was so heavily focused on the Aria character and what her experience was. And as more of the story gets revealed, this idea that, no, wait, she's not a lone survivor. She was sent here. She's stationed here. Oh, she's been here a lot longer than she had intended to be. Oh, she's not the only person on this planet. There's other stuff going on here, you know? And this idea that more and more about her situation gets revealed as you work through the book. It was cool to kind of watch my view of the character and her situation and her relationship to the situation kind of change and evolve as we got more and more information about her and why she's there and how long she's been there, and what her perspective is on her time on this planet alone, you know, because it wasn't just blatantly obvious from the start, oh, this is why this person is here. This isn't like, you know, like The Martian or Project Hail Mary stories we've referenced in previous weeks on this show. This idea of, oh, we know exactly why Mark Watney's on Mars. You know, he got left there. You know, there's no ambiguity that we're uncertain as to what Aria is doing on this planet, or even what this planet is. And MacLean is able to kind of slowly dole that information out, and you just kind of get more and more. He's building the world and getting a larger view of everything, but because it's all through the view of Aria, this one character, you just get this larger, richer picture of who she is.
Yeah, what I was thinking is that in terms of her demeanor as a character, this is kind of an inversion of traveling to Mars. She's going to she's going to a planet that's terminal. She's not terminal.
Yeah,
he was going to a planet that they hoped would sustain.
I like that. Yeah,
you know, life on Mars or life on Earth a little bit longer while he himself is terminal. Mm-hmm. So he has nothing. He has no self-interest in accomplishing the mission or hurrying along or anything like that. He's literally just adrift because the longer it takes to get to Mars, the longer he lives. Mm-hmm. Whereas she is like, I cannot believe this has taken 6 years.
I'm stuck here. Yeah,
I'm stuck here. I've lost my mind. My boyfriend's a cat. Yes. Like not magic. Like my boyfriend didn't get turned into a cat.
Yeah.
Like the only person I can bond with is jelly beans.
Yes. Jelly beans, plural. Once again, very strange. But yeah,
that's what cat owners refer to the little paws pads as. Yeah. Unless the cat only has one toe on one foot. It's jelly beans.
That's a good comparison. I like the idea that her the level of
it's kind of finite game theory versus infinite game theory.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. Because she's expecting to move on. She's expecting
she's playing
to leave
a finite
and go.
game.
Yeah,
and Roy is infinite game theory. Like the goal for him is to keep the game going a little bit longer. Yeah,
because once he accomplishes, he's done. Versus Aria, like I accomplished this, and I get to do the next thing in my life. You know. But until she does this one thing, she can't do anything else, and so she's stuck in this cycle. Yeah. Let's
talk about some confusing world building here.
Yeah, because it's not 100% linear in my mind. There's some holes.
Well, I loved the double meaning of an Aria for the end times, of her name being Aria, her also being into Arias.
Yeah.
But all of that was making me think like, oh, this is our planet Earth, something catastrophic has happened, because she's referencing a catalog of arias from our Earth's operas.
Yeah.
And which maybe perhaps her beach planet at the end is our Earth. It could in some be distant future, and she's somehow exploring.
I was thinking about that, and like, why is it Earth 27? It was that, as we find out, because she is Aria 27, probably reference to the fact of what planet she is on. She has been sent to
right. It sounds more Earth multiversal 27. Than time travel.
Well, and that's the
space
thing.
Travel. Yeah.
I'll say, is it multiversal, or are they just naming the planets after the original home planet, which is Earth, which is our Earth, and they just name every other planet they find subsequent numbers. I was uncertain about that. Is it a is this a version? Is this Earth in Universe 27, or is it the 27th planet they found that they concede because it's like Earth? And obviously, if you look at what we see, the infrastructure on Earth 27 looks a lot like it looks like every dystopian Earth,
exactly.
That's
like I Am Legend or whatever.
She lives in a subway. There are remnants of buildings and infrastructure there. It's just overgrown because there aren't a lot of people around. So is it a multiversal situation, or is it simply inhabitable planets? And then I realized, it doesn't matter.
Well, but I was thinking if it were inhabitable planets, and perhaps this is the Mark Russell in me speaking, I don't think they'd do something as banal as just calling them Earth 27. If it were our Earth doing that, finding other habitable planets, at the very minimum, they would be selling ads on it. It would be like the Subway Eat Fresh Earth 27. It's like watching college bowl games where it's like, it can't just be the Rose Bowl. It has to be the TurboTax.com Rose Bowl or something. Like, I remember the first .com bowl game I ever attended, which was, it was the Papa John's.com bowl. And I love the idea that Papa John's was like, well, we definitely want to sponsor a bowl.
Yeah. But we got to get people to this website. Yeah.
And if we just call it the Papa John's Bowl, no one will know how to find it on the internet. So we have to call it the PapaJohns.com Bowl.
My first year in college,
Alabama.
My first year in college, we went to the MicronPC.com Bowl. So raise your hands if you remember Micron PC. But yeah. So when you were reading, since you mentioned it, were you? I don't want to say confused, but did it bother you not knowing, is this a multiversal situation? Is this just extensive, faster than light space travel to find habitable planets? Did it bother you that there was no specificity in that? Or was it more, because to me, I put some thought into it and I was like, you know what? It doesn't really matter. It doesn't change the fact that whatever this planet was autonomous and existed and had its own civilization and all that.
Right. And I have an answer, but it's cheating, kind of.
Okay, sure.
And my cheat is that I picked this up knowing the size of it, knowing the length of it.
Yeah.
And when I encounter things like that in what is clearly the length of like a 5-issue trade for a complete story, it's like, don't care. This is basically, that's basically the length of like a parable or short story. Functionally,
150 pages, something like that, all told. Yeah.
Had this been the first 5 issues, and it was coming out like weekly or monthly in a comic shop, and it was from Image or something like that, and we were discussing it in real time, I think 5 weeks in, I would have been like, it seems like this could go on for 50 issues, and we still have not thought about what the world building is yet, and that would drive me insane. But knowing that it's a closed canon, that it's a short length, it's like, do you really want him burning through 20 pages of this 110-page book?
Yes,
explaining.
That's where I come down.
Explain this thing, or should we just tell you the story and get out?
It ultimately doesn't matter because, again, it's one of those things of, I think as much as I personally love extensive world building, I love when a creator or creators have put time in and be like, this is what this world is. But it only matters if that's important to the story. Like if the actual origin and the world building, the stuff, if it's not just academic, if it's actually important to the narrative somehow. This book isn't about that. It's about setting up a world. What it's about is getting to that last panel, that last end, when Aria is asked, do we destroy this planet or not? And for her to say, no, don't. All that matters is that this is a planet that has life, that she spent time on, that she had some connection with now, and that whatever company she works for has the power to destroy. And she was like, no, spare it. That's all that matters. Whether that is a multiversal planet in a parallel dimension, or it is simply a planet millions of light years away that they can get to. That ultimately doesn't matter in my mind. Similar to you being like, if he had explained it, right? If he had come out and said, this is what it is, does that change the end story at all? Does it change her decision at all if you know it's a multiversal Earth or simply an Earth-like planet somewhere else in space?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
In my mind, it doesn't. In my mind, it doesn't.
I agree. Yes. And that's, but like the question then is like, this is a character story in a sci-fi setting, and her decision tells you something about the character, not necessarily about the world.
Yes.
And,
yes.
The alien who's asking her, the bureaucrat was saying, well, is there anything on this planet to commend its worth objectively? Yeah. And her answer is totally subjective. It's like, what makes it worthy is that it's my home.
Yeah.
Also, did you Google Translate any of the Arias?
I did not. I assumed, there are footnotes there referencing actual operas. So I was like, okay, well, clearly these are actual lyrics. But no, I did not go through and be like, I wonder what they were. Okay.
I did, especially on the last page where she's on the ship and they're looking at Earth, and you get a letter bubble from Jelly Beans, which is just an ellipsis.
Yeah.
As if like, why would you need to articulate that the cat is just like, but she's singing, I laugh to see myself so beautiful in this mirror. I laugh to see myself so beautiful in this mirror. Is that you, Marguerite? Is that you? And so, I think she sees herself in the planet. And I think that that is an interesting facet to it, that, you project, you not just get your sense of self from your home, but you also project yourself onto your home. And it's this, it's a two-way street.
Sure.
To understand what makes something home.
And it's not just her home, the place that you make home, you decide is home, in whatever that means to you. Because home can mean a lot of different things. We see her home, what her actual home is, where her mother lives and where she grew up. That is a home, but she now, through some lens, views Earth 27 as her home, or as a home, right, and regards it as such. And that what that means to you, what that means to anybody, where they find that level of comfort and or maybe even security for her. Because I would imagine now her life goes back into some level of flux, potential flux. Does she go to another planet, do the same thing over again? Does she wait for orders to do something else? Versus when she was on Earth 27.
Did her father perish doing this type of work?
And that's the larger stuff from those epilogues that you're like, I probably did. Like, it sounded like her dad and her uncle did this stuff, and maybe her dad didn't make it back from one of these, but she was still going to do it.
But she very easily could not have made it back. I mean, there was some very real confrontation here.
Yeah.
And yet you learn a lot about her when she's like pleading with, the boy not to make her. She's like, I don't want to kill you. I don't want to kill you. Don't make me kill you. Yeah. And it's just like, that's not a normal colonizer attitude. I would think a lot of people would be like, oh, this is a primitive species. They're not as intelligent as I am.
Yeah.
So if they're in my way, I just, have to kill them. It is what it is.
But also, you also then think about that interaction right there is coming after being here for 6 years.
That's true. Yeah.
So this is someone who, Aria, you just, by inference, you have to understand, this is not her first interaction with the Blue Stripes and or the Graybeards. She knows all of them. She knows whose territory is whose. She knows where, I was going to say where not to go, but she knows that if she goes to a certain place, she's going to run into one of the other tribes and what she might expect. Right? Like when those hounds came and attacked her in the beginning, it wasn't that she was waiting for them, but when they showed up, she wasn't completely taken by surprise, because she knew where she was and whose territory she was in. And when the handful of Blue Stripes followed her down into her tunnel, she felt that was a violation. It was like, hey, wait, you came into my tunnel, which,
after she goes and raids their apples.
You can argue, be like, hey, man,
how dare you?
You're going into their lands and taking their food so you can survive. Yes, of course. So that is very much a colonizer attitude. But you have to think, after 6 years, she's done a deliberate enough job to stay out of people's ways. You know, she's not trying to antagonize any of the native tribes that are here. She's trying to stay out of their way because if she's mindful enough to know whose territory is whose, and to tread carefully, she doesn't want to do that. So you have to think after 6 years, she's done a pretty good job of not having to kill anybody, of not having to have direct confrontation. Clearly, she's loaded to the gills, though. Her Bat Cycle-esque, Akira-esque motorcycle has not just like guns on it, but like some sort of like vaporizing weapon. She's got whatever futuristic rifle that like blows a hole in the side of her trolley, or you know, doesn't just shoot bullets, it shoots some sort of blast. She's got swords and knives and so she's tacked up to the nines, but she's not intending to use any of it until she feels she has to. So
yeah, it makes her a very interesting character, and quite distinct from anyone else we've encountered in Lonely Sci-Fi, because there's technically not a main character. It's an ensemble and sentient, although I would say ostensibly there is the one girl who is the main character.
Yeah, well, and also is Caleb, the boy who's narrating everything. You know, those are your mainish characters. Yeah. You mentioned Roy already, who was the reluctant main hero. Main character of that story.
Right. Yes.
So someone who opted into a situation, but opted in because he had nothing else. You know, he felt he had nowhere else to go. Right. So, which is different than Aria. Aria definitely opted in, but again, this is a job for her. This isn't a life sentence. This is like, I'm supposed to be here so I can go back and then I guess go do it again somewhere else.
That's what it sounds like.
These are temporary posts.
But I was trying to intuit, and again, you can't take more than what the author is giving you. Like that much, just clear. But I was trying to intuit, like, okay, so is she, is she kind of living hand to mouth? Like you have to take these gigs doing this dangerous work in order to like re-up for another few years. Kind of like in Gone, like you have to do risky stuff, and it doesn't get you ahead, it just keeps you afloat. Or do you have an intrinsically comfortable lifestyle, but she has a thrill-seeking personality, so she feels the need to do this?
It is unclear what the society she comes from, like what their structure is, what their hierarchy is. You don't know. It is unclear as to why anyone
lovely
does
beach
this.
House.
I mean, that's it. I'll say, the location looks pretty sweet.
And her mom urging her not to go would suggest that it's not necessary.
Yes,
and the fact that she doesn't say, "But we need me to do this for 3 more food pellets" or something like that. You know, it's not like Rey in Star Wars 7.
This feels like Aria's doing this out of want than out of need.
I agree. Yeah.
But so that does change her motivation some, I guess. It at least helps define it with this idea. But again, if the idea that this is supposed to be a temporary thing, here's 3 months, you're going to fly in, you're going to get this signal receiver on your arm or gauntlet or whatever. You go, you find the thing, you turn it on, you get extracted, boom, you're done, out of here. If you're just meant to parachute in and out, then that's what your life is. But it's just that because this turned into such a long-term thing, and it isn't even like she's totally isolated too, in that she had that little data pad pager thing, right? So she would get messages from her handler, from the people there. She wasn't happy about the last one she got. That was just like, "Hey, doing a great job. We're real proud of you." And she smashed that thing there. She smashed it out of frustration. But so it isn't like she's cut off from anybody. It isn't like they don't know she's been there for 6 years. You know?
Yeah, although so this ruling, the place that's hiring her, is this? It is an organic species, but they seem Vulcan-esque. Like they're not interested in conversation. Species. It's only data. Well, and that's the other thing that's interesting is her big ship that she climbs in at the end to sail
the big
off
mech,
on but it looks organic. It looks like a hybrid, like
it could be
tech-powered organic thing.
Could be.
Which like that always interests me. Like that, like to have some fusion of technology into organic material is an underutilized trope. I also consider steampunk underutilized because I love steampunk stuff, but I can't think of a steampunk story that I love. But the concept is always just like, it's so cool.
In my mind, a lot of steampunk stuff just relies heavily on aesthetic and look. And
right, it's all about the vibe.
Yeah. And less about and less about why you're doing it that way. Because it doesn't make a whole lot of sense practically. But yeah, there are questions about the narrative structure, not narrative structure, but about what's happening in the world there. But I think, again, for me, like you said earlier, that's not what the book is actually really about. It does raise some questions, though, but I do think it ties into this idea that we've been touching on through all these books of loneliness and isolation in space through technology, right? She is alone on this planet, but she's not forgotten. Right. On some level, the people that sent her here, they know she's been here 6 years. How much they're helping her, I guess sending her like an affirmation email clearly wasn't the thing she was looking for at that point.
That felt like an auto send, send every 30 days.
It really did. It really did. Yeah. So, but there is an awareness that even if they weren't fully aware, if someone went through the records and been like, oh, wow, Aria 27 hasn't. What's she up to? What's she going to 6 years? You're serious? 6 years, really? It's that sort of thing, right? But so she is alone on this planet. She's isolated on this planet, I guess, but she's not really alone. She has contact with the people that sent her here. She has a mission to accomplish. So she knows if she does this thing, she has this goal, she will get back to, or have a chance to get back to, her family and the place that she is from and she knows. And as we mentioned, she's not alone on this planet. There are other things going on here. I'm not talking about jelly beans. I'm talking about the native tribes that are here. Regardless of what her relationship is to them, there are interactions. She can't really communicate with them. She's uncertain at what point they got guns, apparently, after 6 years. They showed up and they have like bullets and ammunition. I feel like that's something you probably would have come across in the 6 years prior, but
it does
again,
seem, yeah.
It seems like to me, there was like not an escalation, but there were things going on this planet that have nothing to do with her presence there or the reason that she was sent there. That there are other things happening on this planet, like the what is it, the one, like the corporation or whatever, that the ones that send the mechs that attack her while she's trying to be extracted from the planet.
Oh, right.
So like it's like, so we have this advanced technology society on this planet. I think they talk about like they are like walled off in a city somewhere by themselves, their technology, and then everyone else in these wastelands are have divided into these various tribes, again, like the blue stripes, the graybeards, and things like that. So that you get a sense that there's a whole world here, things going on completely independent of whatever Aria's up to. You name check the Prime Directive from Star Trek. It's similar to that, right? Where they're coming in and things happen on this planet outside of what she's supposed to be doing. And she just finds herself in the middle of it all.
Yeah.
So again, she's isolated, but she's not alone per se. But to still see how that plays and how that affects a person when they're in that situation of they've got nowhere else. They're in communication. She could theoretically reach out to the people that saw on some level, and unless that communicator is only one way, it's unclear. But she gets messages from people. She hasn't been abandoned there. She's not forgotten.
But it sounds like she can't really get off until she finds the photon. Like, do you think that's her stubbornness in not giving up, or they literally won't let you out of the contract until you get it?
Well, no, I don't think it's a contract thing. I think it's a matter of because when she finds the great photon activates it and like sends coordinates up, she gets a message like extraction at this location 15 minutes. So it's like they're just simply waiting for her signal to activate, and then they come and get her. So she has no means of leaving the planet, unless she would devise a way. But there is a plan in place, it seems like, that when she accomplishes her goal, finds a great photon, activates it, she gets a message of get to this extraction point, and then that's you get out of here. So the only way, as far as she knows, is to leave, is to be extracted by the company, and that only happens if she accomplishes her goal. She finds this great photon and turns it on.
Or possibly if she repairs the one mech there, do you think she was trying to find her own way off, or do you think she thought that was a more effective way to survey a planet?
I think it was more effective it was a way to probably kill some time, because I think she mentioned something like she would get
if your thing's not beeping, there's literally nothing you can do on
exactly. Yeah, and then it was always pretty weak, right? And once it lost the signal, that was it. So what's she going to do? So I think it was a matter of way to kill time and also give her some protection too, because she knew there were threats out there, and we saw it there at the end when she's forced to activate it and use it to help defend herself and keep herself alive from one. But yeah, I don't think that had like interstellar capabilities. I don't think he's trying to leave the planet, just trying to survive a little better and maybe move quicker through the world, be a little more protected to try to find this, reach the signal and get off this planet sooner. It just didn't quite work out that way because she was there for 6 years.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, what a reasonable time frame is supposed to be for finding a photon on a planet. Seems like a little bit of a needle in a haystack mission. Yes, you have the tracker, although it seems like someone has gone out of their way to conceal the photon in a tracker blocking type of way.
Yeah.
So it raises, I guess, some kind of ethical question about whether it's right to be pillaging these planets. But again, these are all just kind of like on the periphery of
what the story is.
Yeah. So I think that type of story building is fascinating, because I almost at times think there's something boring about the really exhaustive world building where they answer every possible question you could come up with. Well, but I know that there are fans who are like, they never addressed this one thing. Like, how could they never address this one thing about the history of this one people group on this one planet? And I'm like, oh my gosh, use your imagination. Like,
well, again, for me,
not a encyclopedia.
I only want that if it's story relevant. Like, I don't want it just for academic purposes.
Right.
Like, if you're going to do all of that, it's for me to enjoy it has to be done in a way where it's meaningful to the story as to why this information is being imparted to the readers. Either you want the reader to know something, or you're having your characters learn something and thus having your readers learn something. So it has to be relevant. It's like, I love when creators do that. Show they've put the work in, and not that they put the work in, but they get to showcase that. Like, yes, not that every creator has to do that, but when a creator has done that, when creators have done that, and they get to show that, yes, we thought about all this stuff because we think this world building is cool. But if it's just put out there just to show that you've done the work, then to me, it's worthless at that point. At that point, give me what I need to know for the story. And yeah, if things are left to the reader's imagination, so be it. And if they come to a conclusion that you didn't think is right because you actually wrote it out, who cares? If it doesn't change the meaning of the story, then it's not worth it having it being in there. But if it is critical to the story and you can find a way to impart all this world building knowledge and have it be fulfilling and enriching to the narrative, which is an incredibly difficult task. I'm not saying that's easy, but when it's done and done well, I mean, I absolutely love it. Like, I will read pages of that stuff, chapters of that stuff, if it's meaningful to the overall understanding of the story that's being told,
Yeah.
Sometimes, if I'm reading Tolkien, I don't need 9 pages on a tree, but like a page and a half on a tree, if that's helpful to understand it, I could live with that, So you can go overboard sometimes, but when it's done well, and because when it's done well, I feel like it's seamless. You don't feel like you're reading a history book. You're not getting just a
Right.
download of information when it's executed at a very high level. And I think for a book like this, it would have been wasteful if he went any further than what Aria would know. Because we had that little bit early on, right, where it goes panelless and she's recounting the history of the planet, and but our understanding is just this is what she knows, and so like that's our download of the world, and it's not to be any more than, again, what she knows about it. She isn't saying this is what actually happened or why. This is what's believed to happen on this planet, and that's all you get there because it's simply her view of the situation. And I think that works for this book. If there had been a whole segment of like a full download of everything going on with every facet of the story, I think that bogs it down entirely.
Yeah, although
It's a much less interesting read in my mind then.
right before that, so there's the page where she's sitting on the rooftop covered in trees, and I did like it is a beautiful page, and I like his art style. It has limitations, but it doesn't hit the limitations in this story.
No, yeah,
I think Junie Ba is the best comp I could come up with of like
there's a they're
extremely
very similar.
stylized, or or like even like a Fabio Moon.
Gabriel
a little
Ba.
less. Gabriel Ba, Fabio Moon. So anyway, she says you see all those perfect little color lakes catching all the color, the blue stripes, and the graybeards refer to them as the tears of the sun in their own garbled up languages, of course.
Yeah.
Now, how does she know that? She must have some of their language translated, or maybe she can only translate things that are written down.
Maybe
she can't understand it when it's spoken. The classic "I understand it, I don't speak it," language trope. But she's clearly done some anthropology here to understand the histories of these people, and the histories of them, insanely familiar to us. Are not the type that most people would say like, oh yeah, they're on a great trajectory. Just leave them be, leave this planet alone. They're going to get themselves all sorted out. Like there's not a lot of data to suggest that, but that's not the reason she gives for, wanting them to, keep living on.
Yeah. It's more just like it's the idea that, they deserve to exist because they already exist almost. Yes, she says it's her home, but also like I feel like there's a tinge of her to be like, it's not for us to say, it's not for anyone to say who gets to live or die in that way. You mentioned MacLean's art, and I really enjoyed it here. I like that. I like his style. I like his cartooning. I like the way he drew the cat. That it's not like he's trying to replicate a cat, He's not trying to.
Cat.
He's not. Yeah, but like you look at that, you're like, yeah, it's a cat. But he's not trying to draw a cat. The way he draws the face and the nose and all that is very much not the way cats are, unless that's how cats are in the future or whenever this takes place.
Parallel universe cat. Yeah.
Who's to say? But you look at that. Yeah, that's the image of a cat there. I also very much like his use of color here. I like that it's. Oh, I just lost it here. I like that it's bright. In general, very bright. Not using a lot of like. It's not real flat or desaturated. I like, especially when you are outside in the world and you see how lush and green it is and how vibrant it is. Just kind of how bright and the contrast of like, I'm flipping through right now when she's in the kind of the apple orchard there, and you can see how much life there is on the planet, I guess. That is not that it is some level of post-apocalyptic, right? But it's not dour and grim. That it is verdant and it's filled with life, and I like that you can clearly get that sense from how it's presented on the page.
Yeah, insanely effective art, and I was wondering as I was reading, I was like, did he really do all the coloring himself? Because it's
a lot.
It's pretty intricate coloring for someone cartooning.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot.
But like very, very impressive. And I think it adds a lot. Had he cartooned this, as many do, as just like, you know, ink and, just ink
It's
only.
black and white.
It's
Yeah.
black and white. Yeah. Yeah, it still works, but you lose a dimension of it. And I think you get a lot of, like, some of this could be pretty heavy, like shootouts and stuff like that. And something about his art combined with his coloring keeps the tone lighter, like a little more playful, a little like, I don't think she's actually in peril. Like, from the art
Yeah.
and the color, I don't think this is the type of story where she gets shot in the subway and is bleeding out slowly.
Yeah. Well, and even a couple of times when like she cuts the arms off of people,
Right.
it's not comical, but it's not, again, not trying to be realistic.
It's not traumatic. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, oh, that guy's arm's off, and it's just like, here's a clean cut.
It's like when Obi-Wan slices a guy's arm off in A New Hope.
It's not meant to be gory. He's not going for that. So it doesn't take away. I don't think it takes away from the overall vibe and feel of the book.
Yeah,
Even
just
when it
imagine
does get,
that same fight scene in this story, but drawn by Daniel Warren Johnson.
Yeah.
That,
I think
that's a totally different book.
That is very true. If DWJ had done this and some of these scenes, the feel, even like the exact same type of story, the feel is entirely different because his style is so different. What he's going to emphasize, what he's going to focus on, what the art is going to look like. You're going to get a different type of story here. So I think the kind of story, it's not, I don't want to say whimsical. There's an element to that because it, on some level, is just about like a girl and her cat on a planet. So there is some level of whimsy there. But there's a lightness to it that it's not meant to be heavy. I think it's meant to have some level of introspection. I think he wants you to think about what this world was and what was done to it, happened to it, and what's being done to it, and what Aria has kind of gone through. But I don't think it's meant to be heavy. It's not meant to be grim. It's not meant to be dour. But I think it is meant to be a little deeper and a little more introspective than maybe just the art would suggest. So I think he's trying to walk that line there in terms of what he's showing and what he's trying to tell.
Yeah. I think an equally interesting version of this story would have been the slice of life version, where you cut off her finding the photon at the end, and it's just kind of like, here's a week in the life of someone in year 6.
Another day.
Yeah. It's like doing this thing, talking to Jelly Beans.
Yeah.
Is Jelly Beans missing? Nope. Jelly Beans went to the usual hiding spot. And, you end the book with the device starting to beep again. Like, oh, I've got another trail, but I've been hearing it beep intermittently for 6 years and keep losing it. I think that would have been super, super cool. I actually don't know why you bother ending the story at all. What do we get from her finding the photon, deciding to save the planet? Like, we didn't know the planet was on the chopping block.
Well, I think what we get is that final end there when the decision is hers as to whether or not to save the planet or not. It's about getting to that point. And so I think that the overall end is that moment there of her coming to a place of realizing, I was stuck there for 6 years and it wasn't all that great. But yeah, it's our home. This is the place that I spent time, and I have a connection to it, whether I wanted to or not. It's because it was there. And so a slice of life kind of thing is very interesting. And I like that idea. Again, completely different kind of book. It's a different intent, different everything about it in terms of why you're doing it. I think the point of the story is to show what her time there alone has done to her and maybe how it's changed her perspective, that she saw this just as a job, right? Get in, do the thing, get out, move on. But because she was stuck there and because she was forced to spend so much time there. She made a connection to it, and so there is a large ideal. I think we talked a little earlier about what you define as home and what you decide is your home. For whatever reason, you come to that. You know, whatever connection you make to a place or a people or whatever, whatever you decide your definition of home is, it's important because it's important to you, because you decide it's important. And I think her time alone there is reflected in that, as to her ultimate decision that even though clearly there were some pretty traumatic things that went on there, especially right at the end, and she didn't clearly totally love her all of her time, her 6 years alone on this planet, she still has a connection to it. And there were some great moments and things that she looks back on fondly and doesn't want to lose that by obliterating the planet. So I think that's why you end on that note versus just like, this is the road that goes ever on.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Although hilariously can't resist the road that goes ever on as she takes off to presumably go take another gig doing the same thing.
This is true. Yes. Yeah.
So yeah. I think perhaps the like before and after codas are what prime me to be like, well, if it's an endless cycle, why bother showing us the full length of the cycle?
Which is why I think they were separate material that have been included now because they can be, but not maybe intended to be part of the original story. I would love to have seen, to be able to find, I looked for, to try to find a version somewhere of that 2015 original printing somewhere just to see if there are any differences and if it was just the added material in the back, because the 2020 version also had some concept art, some sketches, some character design with some notes by Andrew MacLean, which, you know, I always found that stuff interesting to read, to see what the thought process is and talk about what some of the influences on the characters are. But I would have loved to have seen what that original 2015 publication was and what was in it. And because I can see how reading that first coda, that first epilogue, the after one, could make you think, well, yeah, if she's just going to go do it again, then like, what's the point? So,
right.
But yeah, I see that stuff as like bonus material. Not that it's not canon per se, for whatever canon means. I see that as extra, and look at the main story as what the story is. Yeah,
I think that's fair. Cool. Well, I mean, I think it's a fun little story. I think it's a nice, lighter-hearted way to end a month. I mean, it was really heavy last week with Traveling to Mars.
Well, no,
or Gone.
Gone. Yeah,
Gone.
Gone's pretty heavy. They got progressively heavier.
Right. Sentient is a little lighthearted, although again a little more traumatic. I think that scene of the kids finding their murdered families will stick with you in a much more haunting way than her lopping off arms in this book.
It is a more tragic story, but it ends more hopeful, right? Traveling to Mars ends on a hopeful note, but also a sour note. Not a sour note, a sadder note, right?
Bittersweet.
That's what I'm looking for. Bittersweet note. Gone really just ends kind of sad. You know, it has like the appearance, the veil of hopefulness, but like again, that last shot of Abby, older Abby, now older than her mother, standing in front of her mother,
right,
and having to tell her mother who she
reunited.
is. Yeah, and like having to tell her who she is,
if that means anything at all. Yeah.
So yeah, those endings got a little more downward. I think this one ends in general on a little more hopeful, positive, that her experience, that Aria's experience on this planet alone has changed her fundamentally in a way where I don't think if she had jumped in and out in 3 or 6 months, whatever, found the great photon and left, like Earth 27 is gone. And what's lost in the world if Earth 27 is gone, I don't really know because I don't know how many Earths there are, but just the idea that a whole planet could be annihilated and wiped out like that because some other entity came in and found whatever power source and got rid of it, you know? Like, I don't know if that seems right or not, but just the idea that her time alone on this planet has changed her perspective enough that she would want the planet to continue to exist is a more hopeful note, is a lighter note than I think the other books that we've covered in this month.
Yeah. Any final thoughts on Apocalyptigirl and Aria for the End Times? I mean, obviously the early definition of Aria was very clutch too, of that it's meant for one voice.
Yes.
You know, it almost feels too on the nose for me to bring it up. Although I really appreciated it because I was like, I'm sure in the deep recesses of my mind, I knew that is what an Aria was. But when I picked up the book, would not have passed a pop quiz about what constitutes an Aria in opera.
Oh, come on now. I mean, if you're a crossword person, Aria is
that's true. Yeah.
Aria's got to be a top 15 all time in the history of crosswords answers because of the vowels. And the clue is always something like operatic solo or like diva moment or something like that, you know?
Yeah.
So,
although I think it's usually one of those where I just see the word opera, 4 letters, and I don't think about what it is. Aria. Yeah.
95% it's Aria.
Like,
yes,
I don't need to even know what an aria is other than it's related to opera and it's 4 letters and it's a lot of vowels. Like that's genuinely, I get through the crossword with that information.
You know what? I have no response to that because that's actually right. That is how a lot of people who know words from crosswords, and there are plenty of things for myself who know words from crosswords that are just, this thing is associated with this, and that's all I know because I've seen it so many times that I just know. So I guess that is fair if you just see
Plus
opera.
There are the short-term kicks like that crossword puzzle editors have.
Yeah.
Like in a month you'll see different clues for the same answer like 7 or 8 times in a month, and it's just why is this word trending right now?
And it just is. Yeah.
But I think it's like, if the editor is helping with something and they're like, oh, you need a 4-letter word with three vowels, I've been using this a lot lately, let's find a way to, or it's like, is it a little Easter egg for crossword solvers?
It could be, but it is one of those words that if you solve crosswords, I guess I didn't think about it in that way because I know what an aria is. Not saying that I'm better or worse than anybody else, but that idea of it is possible that there are plenty of people out there who just know what the word is. And you're right, just like you, just associated with opera simply because of crosswords and not actually know what an aria is or have listened to an aria or know when they're listening to it that this is an aria.
Right.
That sort of thing,
Right. But there's also the red herring of you get the word area a lot.
Well, that is
Erie,
true,
aloe,
Erie,
all of the 4-letter words that are heavy in vowels. But anyway, okay. Well, we don't know what's coming next after Lonely Sci-Fi Month. I suspect it will be not another theme month, at least not back to back. So we will keep you posted with another 0 episode coming next week to set up our next book. And thank you for listening to Lonely Sci-Fi Month. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you found some new books. I know at least both of us found at least one new book with this one and enjoyed it immensely. And I'm going to check out some more Andrew MacLean stuff. As part of preparing for our socials for the podcast, I have followed him on Instagram. I've been looking at his other art and his other projects. He stays pretty busy. So this may not be our last brush with Andrew MacLean.
Yeah, we'll see.
Speaking of social media, you can find us on Instagram and Blue Sky or at storiedarts.com. And we will see you next week.
Peace.